Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I just wanted to say that I am here. I am sorry for my absence. This is not a place that I feel like I will be uploading a ton of videos on, and I also wanted to make a quick little announcement before we get started on my video today. I know a lot of you guys were expecting possibly a July wrap-up, and I have decided that I will no longer be doing those monthly. I have decided to instead do them bi-monthly because honestly it's just easier for me to do it once every 2 months instead of once every single month. And I'm no longer going to be doing what I bought. Here's my little Murray. Hi baby. She wanted to be in this video apparently. But I'm no longer going to be doing what I bought. I'm just going to be doing a wrap up of what I read every 2 months because I just think that is easier for me, because it's just a hassle to try and do it monthly and to also try and figure out what books I bought during the month and how many books I bought over the month. And it's just, yeah, I didn't want to do it anymore. So let's go ahead and jump on into this video. So it is currently August right now, almost mid-August, which means that summer is starting to dwindle down and it is going to be fall and spooky season here very, very soon. So I wanted to make a video of giving you some of my favorite books that I have read for spooky season. In this video, I have 13 books that I am recommending. Bless you, bless you. Oh my goodness. That I will be recommending, that I did try to, my goodness, are you good? Okay. I did try to do various different genres, as well as various levels of spookiness, but I wanted to get this video out early because I know for some of you guys, spooky season has already started, but I also know that there is a good chunk of readers that don't read, you know, spooky books until like October, maybe September. So I wanted to just go ahead and get this out now so everybody has plenty of time to see this video and possibly read these books that I'm going to be recommending. So let's just go ahead and jump right on in. So I'm just going to start off with like probably the spookiest and creepiest and probably the most horror based spooky read that I have ever read, and this is a book that I actually read all the way back when I first got back into reading in 2023, and I believe I read this in October of 2023, and I've been meaning to reread it for the last couple of years. Maybe this will be the year, but that is All Hallows Eve by Michael Penning. And so and I wanted to get some not as well known books on here. There's still going to be some that are going to be more well known than others, but I did want to start with this one because in my opinion this is like the most, like if you're wanting like a horror movie and a book, this is definitely it. So this book is about a woman who, this is like 100 years after the Salem witch trials. It's like right after the American Revolution, and it's set in Salem, Massachusetts. And a woman by the name of Alice has had her husband go missing. So she is in Salem trying to figure out where her husband is when she finds out about the legend of this witch that comes and like basically kidnaps children and like steals their souls. And lo and behold, her own daughter goes missing during the night. So it's very kind of reminiscent. I'm sorry, I don't know what is going on with my dog. She is just sneezing up a storm back there. So if you hear sneezing in the background, that's her. She's fine. I don't know what's going on with her. But this book is honestly kind of gives Hocus Pocus vibes, but much, much darker. If you were wanting Hocus Pocus, but like more not so family friendly, this is definitely a book that I would recommend, and it is so good. I am not one that usually gravitates towards like horror books, you know, because I just feel like they're just not for me. I'm a wimp. But this one was so good. Again, I've been meaning to reread it for so long, and now she's scratching my pillow. It's fine. This is what happens when you film with a dog in your room. Anyway, so this is so good. Again, it's dark, it's creepy. I would definitely check your trigger warnings because it does get very violent and bloody and gory in this book. So just please be aware of that and take care of yourself if you ever decide to read this. There is 2 other interconnected standalones. I don't know how interconnected they are, to be honest with you. With this, I have not read those books or gotten those books. I've been wanting to, but it just hasn't happened yet. Such a good book. If you're wanting something creepy, if you're wanting something gory for Halloween, this is it. And considering the fact that it takes place on Halloween and it's all based around like a witch and everything like that, I think this is the perfect pick. This is a more recent read. I actually just finished this within the last month and a half, and that is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. So this takes place in Rhode Island, and it is about these students at this all-girls school back in like the early 1900s who just have these weird circumstances happen to them that causes them to pass away. And it's all centered around this book that somebody wrote. I can't remember the author's name off the top of my head in this book. It's all surrounding this book, and it's kind of just about this school and just the weird circumstances surrounding it. And then fast forward to about 100 years later, and there is a film director that wants to make a movie based off of this story and this school. So it's very much 2 different timelines, which I love. I am a sucker for a dual timeline or multiple timeline book. I don't know why. I just always love that. And honestly, what really made me love this book was the writing. It's very much like the narrator is talking to you. The narrator actually speaks directly to you at times. And then there's also a bunch of like little notes that they put at like the bottom of the page to like give you like extra information. It's very much like you are a part of this story, and it's so good. I also really loved the characters both from the past and from the present, and there was just this feeling of just something is off, something isn't right, what is going on? And I feel like if you're wanting something that just gives you the vibes of just creepiness but not like full on like blood, gore, anything like that, I feel like this is the perfect thing for that. If you're wanting something more mystery than like thriller or horror, I would totally recommend this. Next up is a book that I also have read within the last few months. I think I read this back in the spring of this year, and that is The Society for Soulless Girls by Laura Steven. So this is actually a book that takes place in England at a university. And it is a university that has been closed for 10 years because right before it closed, there were some deaths that happened, and they were very unexpected, very mysterious. There was just too many questions, with those deaths. So they decided to shut down the school, and now it is officially back. So we have this girl by the name of Lottie who is wanting to solve the mystery of these deaths. And why did they happen? What happened? Was somebody at fault? Was it an accident? Was it somebody taking their own life? What was going on? And she actually has a roommate by the name of Alice. And the best way that I can really describe Alice is just always grumpy, very easily triggered. And it's honestly, it takes a turn that you really don't expect. There's a lot more spells and curses and more not fantasy elements, but more otherworldly elements that you really don't expect. You just think that this is going to be your typical murder mystery. It's not. It's so much more than that. And honestly, this has the best gothic vibes, best dark academia vibes you will ever find. Oh my god. I loved the vibes of this book. They were so good. They were so like it just oozed out of this book, these gothic dark academia vibes, not to mention the fact that we did get to see a really great relationship develop between Lottie and Alice. And honestly, like I said, it's not just your typical murder mystery, it's so much more than that, and it also has more feminism than you would think there would be, and I'm gonna just leave it at that. And now let's go ahead and talk about a more popular or very popular book that also gives kind of gothic vibes, and that is of course One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I love this book. I read it and finished it at the beginning of this year. I love this book. I am not one who usually buys like the next book in a series until after I finish the first, but I was like maybe like 60% of the way through this book, and I was with my dad at Barnes & Noble, and I was like, I'm gonna get the second book. I don't even care. I love the first book so much, and I want it to continue. And so I got it, and it's amazing. And I know a lot of people know about this and have read it, but just in case you haven't, this is what the plot is. It's basically about this village where there's a couple of different things going on. First of all, there's this mist out in the forest that is known for taking people's lives, basically, and making people go mad. And you have to have some sort of crystal or enchantment or some sort of thing with you to not make you go mad. And all of that going on, you also have this sickness going around with children where if they like end up with black veins, like you're supposed to just like, I'm not kidding. And I think it's because, if I remember correctly, there is like this magical element to it, and they didn't want that, and so they were wanting this to happen. So you have this mist and this sickness happening. Like the way that this village thinks that they need to combat it is to get a bunch of magical cards, which I can best describe as tarot cards, that each have like a magical purpose to them. And if they find all of those and say like a certain like incantation, spell, whatever, then this curse and sickness and stuff will be lifted. But of course, things are not that simple. So there's this girl by the name of Elspeth, and she actually had got the sickness when she was a child, but her family actually didn't kill her. They actually kept her alive and just kept it hidden. When she got this sickness, she actually found this card in her uncle's like collection that was the nightmare card. And because she used it, she now has this nightmare living, I'm sorry with my dog. She now has this nightmare living in her head. And the thing is like this nightmare, like it is very much its own character. And also during this whole thing, she also ends up becoming involved with this like prince of this kingdom named, what was his name? A nephew. I can't remember his name. And this nephew of this kingdom wants to, you know, use her powers that she has gotten from the sickness and from this nightmare to basically overturn this corrupt king, basically. And so, yeah, I really loved this book. Again, the vibes, I loved this, and I did read this in like the winter time, and I definitely think it's more like fall vibes kind of book, but I definitely think you can read it in the winter as well. I can see why it's so popular. I can see why so many people love it. So if you still have not read this, take this as your sign. You need to read this, and I think that you will love it, especially if you love a gothic fantasy, especially if you love a good magic system, if you love a good relationship developing, I'm just saying, then I think that this is a good book for that. Now let's go ahead and get into another more unknown book, and that is The Cottage on Pumpkin and Vine. So this is another book that I read way back when I got into reading, and it is actually 3 different stories in one, and it's all kind of set around this cottage over Halloween weekend. One is set the day before, one is set the day of, and one is set the day after Halloween. And if you want spice, if you want romance, if you want a whole bunch of tropes, this is the book for you. I wasn't sure what I was reading at first, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this. But then when I realized, oh, it's 3 different stories in one, like, I was all about it. And honestly, I personally liked the last 2 books or stories than the first one. But honestly, I feel like if I were to reread this, kind of knowing like where like this story was gonna go, I definitely feel like I would like enjoy this a lot more. So yeah, I really enjoyed this. It's set in Maine, which not a lot of books are set in Maine. You got this really cute little cottage. Vibes are great. It's not super Halloweenish. It's not super spooky. But if you're just wanting something fun during the spooky season and you're a romance person, if you love spice and all of that kind of stuff, I would definitely recommend this for sure. All right, next up we have Cackle by Rachel Harrison. So Rachel Harrison is, I think, more known for her other book, which is Such Sharp Teeth, but this is like her like witchy book. And as someone who absolutely adores witchy books, like I can make a whole other video of just witchy books if you want that, because I read them like all year round. This is such a good book for this. I've actually read this twice already. I read it the first time and then I reread it and annotated it a year later. And honestly, this year I'm honestly seriously debating about just rereading this and listening to the audiobook of it because it's so good. It's basically about this woman who has just gone through a really bad breakup with a long-term boyfriend and has decided to kind of leave the city life behind and move to a new place in upstate New York, where she meets a very eclectic woman by the name of Sophie. And she has realized that there's something kind of different about Sophie. There's something off about her, especially when the townspeople around her are kind of weird when they are around her, and they just seem very off. And she realizes that there's a lot more to Sophie than she realizes, and that she's actually more like Sophie than she realizes. I said, if you love small town vibes, if you love just a good, like witchy, fun book, this is great for that. If you are also going through a breakup and kind of want a book to kind of relate to that, this is also another good book for that. And I just loved this story. I loved the character of Sophie. I also really loved our main character, whose name is Annie. I think that this book is just amazing. It actually takes place throughout like an entire year, but a good part of it is taking place in the fall and the winter, so perfect for this time of year. The vibes are fantastic. Like I said, I'm seriously debating on rereading this for a 3rd time because I need it. I need it in my life. It's so good. And yeah, this is definitely like one of my highly recommended like spooky season books, especially if you're not wanting something that's like thriller or horror. All right, next up we have another kind of OG spooky season read, and that is The Ex-Hex by Erin Sterling. I actually just read this within like the last month, so this is still very fresh in my mind. So this is actually about a witch whose name is, what is her name? Vivian. So Vivian gets broken up with somebody, and she decides when she's a stupid teenager that she is going to actually curse them. She's going to give them a silly little curse. It's nothing serious. They're just playing around. And what actually ends up happening is that curse was actually very, very real, and Vivian didn't realize it until 9 years later when her ex is back. And honestly, this book is so good. It definitely, I can see why people say it's kind of like Halloween Town, because the vibes of like this area are definitely like that. This is perfect for October. But I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I actually only gave this book 3.5 stars, but I still wanted to mention it because, like I said, it is such a well-known and very popular book to read during this time of year. Great romance, great setting, great vibes. You know, I thought it was good. you know, not my favorite, but I still want to recommend it to people because just because I may not love a book doesn't mean you're not gonna love it. All right, next up we actually have a novella, and that is Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. This was actually my Halloween read last year. I actually read this on Halloween night, and it is I think it's called like a graveyard mystery or a fungi mystery, something like that. It is about a group of people who like to meet in the graveyard and smoke cigarettes because they're all insomniacs. And while they're there, they notice a lot of strange things in this graveyard. And it's up to them to kind of figure out what's going on and why all these strange things are happening and just kind of everything like that. You're also learning about each person and like why they are the way that they are. I think it's a really good fun little spooky read. It's not overly spooky, but there's definitely like this mystery. It has a very fun plot. It's definitely more of like a gothic kind of vibe, or more of a like, you know, kind of just a, you know, not a typical like small town like Halloween town kind of vibe that you would get in like a romance. This is definitely more of like a grittier kind of version. And I honestly really loved the characters. I thought they were very, very interesting. Even though this wasn't my favorite book, I thought this was a great book to read actually on Halloween. It's nice and short. I only got through this in like 3 hours, I think. I think it took me about 3 hours to read. And if you're wanting something that's just mysteries, you know, graveyards, just kind of something different, I definitely think that this is a good book for that. I have the mindset that if you read like any thriller or horror book during this time of year, I feel like you could definitely get in those spooky vibes. I feel like any book that's like in the thriller, mystery, horror genre would probably do the job. But I wanted to tell you guys my favorite thriller, and that is of course A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, aka my favorite YA author of all time, and honestly my favorite like thriller mystery writer of all time. I love her writing. I love her stories. So I feel like most people know what this book is. It's now a Netflix TV show, and the second season I think it's going to be coming out here pretty soon. So yeah, if you don't know what this book is, a girl by the name of Andy is basically using her senior thesis to kind of solve an old mystery that happened like 5-ish years ago in her town, where a girl ended up going missing and then her boyfriend was found dead in a ditch, and so everybody in the town assumed that she did it, or that he did it. Case closed, done, like nothing. So Andy was like, you know what? I feel like there's more to this story, so I'm gonna investigate it for myself. And she actually ends up using the help of the boyfriend's younger brother named Sal, who is amazing. Love him. He's like the definition of a wonderful like golden retriever boy. He's amazing. So yeah, I love this book. I mean, it's very like, if you love just good mystery solving, you know, so as somebody who grew up watching Scooby-Doo all the time as a kid, this was great. I loved this. It is a trilogy with a novella. I have read the second book, still have not read the third book. I will get to it, I promise. Love this book, love Holly Jackson. Honestly, any of her books would work for this time of year, but I might as well talk about like her most well-known. Let's go ahead and get into just like a true romance suggestion, and that is My Roommate is a Vampire by Jenna Levine, something like that. And it's basically what this title says. It's a girl who is, you know, looking for a place to live. She finds this ad on the internet, thinks it's too good to be true because the rent is way, 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 way cheaper than it like should be. And then she finds out, oh, I understand why this you know, room is so cheap and why my roommate keeps acting so weird. It's because he's an actual vampire. So yeah, this is actually a book that I read last year in September, I believe, and I actually annotated it. It's a great book. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was just the cutest little romance. I thought it was a great spooky season romance. I loved the dynamic between the two main characters. I loved the vampire. He is the biggest golden retriever boy you have ever seen. And I just thought it was just a fun little twist to a classic like romance. You know, it does have a second book, and I think possibly even a third book that's coming out, maybe, possibly, I don't know. But this is the book that I've read. I do have the second book, I just haven't read it yet. Maybe I'll be able to get to it by the end of the year, we'll see. But yeah, really enjoyed this book. Again, if you're wanting just a fun, just silly little rom-com, you know, that has something to do with spooky season, I would definitely recommend this. And I think it's really cute and quirky and just fun. All right, now let's go ahead and get into not a very well-known book, and that is The Ghost and Mrs. McClure. Now, if you've been on my TikTok at all, I will link it down below. I have talked about this book on actually numerous occasions in terms of like spooky season books and that kind of thing. I really enjoyed this book. This is a very underrated book, but of course it's underrated. It came out like 20 years ago. But honestly, considering this book came out in like 2004, I feel like it still holds up. Yeah, sure, some of the technology is like not up to date anymore, but again, I feel like at the core, you could still really enjoy this. So it's about this woman who decides to move back to her hometown to help her aunt run her very struggling bookstore. And she finds out through an event where the author of this event gets, during it, because apparently he's allergic to peanuts and somehow peanuts ended up in his water. Who could have done that? That there's actually a ghost that lives in this bookstore, and she's the only one who can hear him. Oh, and this is also the very first book I ever annotated, which is super duper fun. I've read this book twice, actually, and I just loved this. Again, is it kind of on the older side? Is it kind of dated? Yes, but I feel like that kind of gives it a little bit of charm. Apparently there's like 9 books in this series, and I still haven't gotten or read the other like 8 that are in this series. But I think it's just about this guy who's a ghost, like, and his, you know, new partner, just kind of solving mysteries and stuff. In this book, it was a author who gets unalived, like I said, at a event at this woman's bookstore. And it's basically them just trying to find, you know, out what happened. And I really enjoyed this. I thought it was super duper fun. I did love the ghost character. I also loved our main character. I thought they were both very fun and really great characters. And again, if you want, just a good cozy murder mystery, I feel like this is great. Again, I know it's over 20 years old, but I still think that it holds up. So I say give this a shot. So the next book that I have is, of course, Assistant to the Villain. It is a classic. It's not the biggest like spooky season type of book, but it's definitely, I feel like, a good book if you're just wanting something fun, funny, quirky, just enjoyable for this time of year. So it is about a woman by the name of Evie Sage, who is like one of the most relatable characters you will ever meet. I feel like her character is like me in a book. Like, I feel like I relate to her probably the most out of any character I've ever read about. So she ends up, through kind of crazy events, ends up working for the villain in this fantasy land. And it sounds as crazy and as quirky and as funny as you would think it is. It's very Grumpy Sunshine. It's very much like, you know, not your typical romance type of book. And like I said, I love the humor in this book. The author, Hannah Nicole Meyer, she actually created this book based off of a TikTok series that she did years ago. So if you ever want to like see like where this kind of story came from, go check out her TikTok and watch her videos kind of based on this story. It's hilarious. And now whenever I picture like this story, those are the videos that always pop into my head. So yeah, I love it. There are 2 books now in this series. I have the second one. I don't have the third one yet because I haven't read the second one. I plan to here pretty soon, actually. I loved it. This is a 5-star read for me. and I have reread it and annotated it. It's great. I love it. It's a classic, and I definitely feel like if you have been wanting to read this book for a while, I definitely think that you should. And last but not least, for my spooky season recommendations, if you want me to make like a spooky TBR video, or if you're wanting me to make like just witchy books, because I read so many of them, let me know and I will definitely make one of them, or both of them if you want that too. But the last book that I have for you is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. So this is actually the first in a 5-book series, I believe. It is YA, and it is about this girl named Stevie who actually gets accepted to this very prestigious invite-only school in Vermont, I believe. And there's a lot of weird history regarding this school. There's a lot of weird disappearances that have happened, including the owner's like daughter, like founder. Like there's just a lot of weird stuff going on. And Stevie is on the case. She is actually a true crime junkie, which the way this school works is that if your child like is very good at like one specific thing, like this is like the school that they go to kind of hone in on their craft and to make them like better at it. And I really loved it. I love the kind of like setting of the school. I thought the way that it was kind of structured was very, very interesting. Very excited to see where this story goes, because it leaves you definitely wanting more at the end. And yes, it's YA, but I still feel like it's very good for somebody like that is older like me. I really enjoyed it, and I feel like it's just really fun. Again, I feel like it's perfect for spooky season. Definitely want to read the rest of the series. Eventually, I do have the second book. And yeah, I definitely think that this is fun. And especially if you have like teenagers that are wanting more like spooky season reads, I feel like this would be a great book. So those are all of the books that I am currently recommending for spooky season. Honestly, there are so many books that I didn't even mention that I feel like would be perfect. Just know that spooky season is a great time of year for me. I love spooky season and reading spooky season books. I have a lot of books this year that I am hoping to read. So again, if you're wanting my own TBR for this year, let me know and I could definitely make that video. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.